Hello everyone, it's Daniel from TechMyFactory and welcome to this next video from the series called IdentiSphere Explorer. In this video, we are going to explain Pushed Authorization Requests. So let's start. As always, it's worth starting with a little bit of theory. So let's start with OAuth-2. So OAuth-2 is a framework for delegated authorization, not authentication, right? That's important. So let's explain some of the concepts here. So in OAuth-2 world, we have four actors, basically. There is a user called resource owner. There is authorization server called issuer. There is an application called client, and API, which is the resource server. And now basically the thing is that when user is accessing application and application would like to retrieve some information from the resource server or API, this application needs to call this API on behalf of authenticated user. So this application needs to be authorized to execute specific operations or call specific endpoints on API side on behalf of the user. So this is where we have this delegated authorization. So user is authorizing up to call protected resource server to retrieve some data about the user on behalf of the user. So in a typical scenario, user is accessing the application, right? User is not authenticated, so user is redirected to authorization server. So the login page is displayed. Once the user is successfully authenticated, there is consent screen displayed. Like authorization server is asking like, hey, dear user, like, do you agree that I will share an access token to this client application? And this client application is basically requesting access to those resources or those scopes, right? Like read documents, update documents, delete documents, right? And user can consent basically. So user is authorizing application to call protected resource server. And this is this delegated authorization. So once the process is complete, authorization server issues an access token and then application can call protected resource on behalf of the user with this access token. And now with that, there are a couple of more concepts, right? In OAuth world, there are different grant types. The most popular is authorization code flow with PXE, which is used when authenticating users. But also there is client credentials flow when we call, want to actually obtain an access token for the application itself without the user context, right? And some other flows like device flow. Also, when it comes to tokens, there is an access token, which can be opaque or JWT, right? So this access token is added to the authorization header when calling protected resource. And also there is refresh token issued. This can be issued optionally, basically. And refresh tokens are typically used with mobile applications, especially because when we have refresh token, we can call authorization server to retrieve a new access token, to get new fresh access token. So it means that we don't have to bother a user to authenticate again, right? Because once access token is expired or it will nearly expire, we can call authorization server with refresh token and we can ask for new access token. So we don't have to ask user to authenticate again. And obviously there is token introspection because if we use opaque tokens, we cannot investigate its content. So we have to call authorization server introspection endpoint to validate this token and get some data related to this token. And there are scopes, right? So typically when we call authorization server, we define scopes. OpenID is a special scope for OpenID Connect to obtain an ID token. We are going to talk about it in a minute. But there are other scopes like API read, API write, or document read, document delete, right? So those scopes are basically used by authorization server to also display a consent screen to the user. That's what I mentioned before. Like, hey, this application, this client would like to access a protected resource and read, write, and delete documents on your behalf. Do you agree, right? And that's why we have this consent screen in OAuth flow during authentication. And once a user consents, then application can call protected resource on the user's behalf. On the other side, we have OpenID Connect. So it's identity layer on top of OAuth 2 used to handle authentication, right? So now when it comes to OpenID Connect, again, we have some important things here. So number one, the thing is that in the OIDC or OpenID Connect world, there is an ID token issued by the authorization server. It's signed assertion of the user identity, right? So it contains different claims about the user. So basically, as you can see, there is information about the first name and last name of the user, the information about the nickname. There can be also picture included and any other things related to the user. So it's specifically for the application to confirm who the user is. So client application is always looking into ID token to check user identity. It will never look into access token. Access token is only intended to be used by protected resource. Additionally, there is user info endpoint exposed by the authorization server. Why? Because typically we don't want to include everything in ID token when it comes to user. Sometimes we want to keep minimal claims in the ID token, and if additional details about the users are required, application can call user info endpoint, and authorization server will return more information about the user, right? So in this case, we can reduce the size of ID tokens, and every time application needs some more information about the user, it can call user info endpoint. There is also discovery document. So basically this document is available under well-known /OpenID configuration endpoint. And it's like a description of capabilities of the authorization server. It presents endpoints like a token endpoint, authorization endpoint, keys endpoint, supported flows by authorization server, right? So it's like a descriptive document about the authorization server and its capabilities. And also, there are some standard claims when it comes to OpenID Connect, like profile, email, address, phone, right? So those are like standardized claims that are used across different identity providers. So, to summarize, we use OpenID Connect to authenticate users, right? And then we use OAuth 2 to implement delegated access for client applications so they can securely call protected resources on behalf of the users. So users are authorizing client applications to execute specific calls against protected resources. So let's start with the difference between standard authorization and push authorization requests, or PAR. So PAR moves authorization parameters from the browser URL into a secure backchannel post, keeping sensitive request details hidden. So let's start with standard authorization request first. In this request, all the parameters travel through the browser as URL query strings visible in history, logs, and refer headers. So as we look here, we can see that client ID, sender, redirect URI, scope, state, and all other parameters, even those that are custom parameters sent to authorization server. So all those parameters are exposed in the URL. So actually, to mitigate this, we can use pushed authorization requests, or PAR. In this scenario, parameters are sent over server-to-server post, and the browser only sees an opaque request URI reference. So basically, when we call authorize endpoint, there is only request URI parameter added here. All other parameters are hidden from the browser. So let's discuss this in details. Let's take a look at this flow diagram, right? So there is client application, there is authorization server, and also user agent, which is the browser. And now the thing is that, first of all, client sends post request to PAR endpoint on the authorization server side. So in this post request, client includes client ID, redirect URI, scope, state, code challenge, and all other parameters that needs to be sent to authorization server. And then authorization server obviously stores those parameters, right? And responds with the request URI. So this unique identifier of this specific par request. Obviously, this request URI has expiration time, right? And once application receives it, then application can call authorize endpoint in the browser actually with only request URI included. So all sensitive parameters stay on the server side and only opaque request URI is visible to the browser. And obviously then once authorization server receives this request, it can validate this request, it can fetch all the stored parameters, right? And then we have like a standard authentication process for the user, right? So once the user is successfully authenticated, the rest of the flow is exactly the same as we discussed in case of authorization code flow with Pixie. So authorization server is returning authorization code to the client. Then using the token endpoint, client can exchange authorization code for a token, right? So in the end, access token, ID token is returned to the client app. And now, why it's worth using a push authorization request. So first of all parameters are sent directly to authorization server. Those are never exposed in the browser URL or history. Authorization server validates before user flow rejects invalid requests early, right? So basically, authorization server can validate those parameters immediately, right? Before even we will initiate a login request and we will display login page. With PAR, we can prevent parameter injection and open redirector attacks, right? Because nothing is exposed in the browser, so there is no access to those parameters. Push authorization requests work with Pixie, as I mentioned, right? So code challenge is sent in the PAR body, not in the URL. And additional thing is that push authorization requests are required by a financial grade API from OpenID Connect or FAPI2 for financial grade security, right? So in the highly regulated industries, it is required to use push authorization requests actually, instead of using standard authorization flow with all the parameters in the browser URL. So now let's look at push authorization requests in practice. So let's look at the authorization request without push authorization request feature enabled. So when I click login button in my application, we can see that authorize endpoint is called with all the query parameters, right? So we can see that those are available in the browser, right? So those are not hidden. I can open the browser and I can check what query parameters were added to this call to authorize endpoint. So now with push authorization requests, we can hide those parameters, right? We will use back channel actually to send those parameters to the authorize endpoint, so to auth0 in this case. And then we will only receive this unique identifier of the authorization request, which we will use in the browser. So now let's look into the source code. So here is the source code for my Blazor application, right? And we can see that under configure OpenID Connect, under options, we have this property, push authorization behavior, right? And there are actually two possible values here. So we can disable it. So we will just use the standard authorization request with all the query params we saw before. Require, this will mean that we always want to use push authorization requests and use if available. So this one will be used only if authorization server supports push authorization requests. And auth0 supports it. So here I will select require. So now let's launch application again and let's see network traffic. So now if we open the browser again and we click login button, this time authorize endpoint is called as well, obviously. But if we look into the query params, we will see that only client ID is used here and request URI, right? So no other parameters exposed in the browser here, right? No state, no nonce, no custom parameters sent to authorized endpoint, only those two values, client ID and request URI, right? So then when authorization server receives this request URI, it can retrieve all the parameters, right? And then user can complete authentication successfully, and in the end, application will receive an ID token and also an access token to call the protected resource. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. If you would like to learn more about modern identity solutions, I encourage you to subscribe to TechMind Factory channel. Thank you once again and see you in the next videos.